On this trip, we're visiting Alaska, a land that doesn't sleep even in the cold of winter. In the shadow of Denali, just outside of Talkeetna, Alaska, we're going to enjoy some fantastic ice fishing, along with other winter sports that include cross-country skiing, hiking, and even witness the start of the Iditarod sled race. Talkeetna is about 2 hours north of Anchorage. The roads are well maintained even in winter, and it makes it an easy drive even for someone from Florida like me. You're not going to find any chain hotels in Talkeetna, but there's lots of choices on Airbnb. Temperatures on this trip were pretty good. We never got that bone-numbing cold. As a matter of fact, today at 9 a.m. it was 22 degrees. But even when the weather does turn bad, as a great philosopher, my daughter-in-law, once said, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. And once you have the proper attire, finding a great place to fish amongst all this ice is not that hard to do. On this trip, I just asked the lady who we rented the cabins from for the names of some lakes in the area. Next, I went to the Alaska Department of Fish and Game's website, and I typed in the name of the lake. In this case, it was Tigger Lake. Who couldn't like Tigger? So what's great about the Alaska Department of Fish and Game's website is that they have many bathymetric maps of these lakes, and that can give you a good idea of where you want to start fishing. But also, in addition to the map of the lake, they'll have information on the depth, they'll have information on the size of the lake, the species that are present, and also if it's stocked, and then also detailed information on how to drive to the lake and where to find parking. On Tigger Lake, it was pretty easy to find a spot on where I wanted to start to fish by looking at the contour lines here off of this point. In winter, the fish really like to be on a line where they can go from shallow to deep very quickly. And usually you're going to find your fish in a little bit deeper water. For me, what I found over 6 feet. And sometimes you can go down as deep, like on this lake, maybe to 30 feet to find where the fish would be hanging. But what's going to determine on where the big fish are is where the forage fish or the bait fish. So it's nice if you drill maybe 2 to 3 holes, starting with the shallow and going out to deeper, to try each of the different depths to find where the sweet spot is of where the most fish are hanging out. One other thing that would have been nice is if this point would have been here on the north side of the lake. That would have given it a southern exposure. And even though the sun is very low in Alaska during the winter, just a little bit of additional sunlight would be a good thing. But I will always take the contour lines with a showing here like a sharp drop-off to be the best place to start. So here we are on Tigger Lake off the point, drilling our holes. The ice was 2 feet deep, and it took all 3 of us to get through it. And it was my daughter-in-law, Sarah, who broke through the ice on the first hole. Now it was finally time for fishing. To give the lure a little action, I'd flick the rod tip up and down a little bit. The rod that I'm using is a 2-foot long Apache that you can buy at any Walmart at the counter in the sporting goods section for about $10. That includes the rod, the reel, and the line. The reel that I used was a small panfish reel that I use here in Florida that had 6-pound monofilament line on it. The most important thing for the reel is to make sure that it has a smooth drag. I brought plenty of baits to try out, but the most productive 2 were the Swedish pimple in the size 2N and also the chartreuse crappie jig. I tipped my hooks with yellow salmon eggs because this comes closest to the color of the food pellets they feed them at the hatcheries. If you're fishing native trout, use red salmon eggs. This trout made several drag pulling runs before I was finally able to pull him through the ice. And I am one happy angler with my rainbow trout. Through the rest of the morning we caught several other trout, including this one on the Swedish pimple. The colors on these fish were amazing against the white snow. And these two we invited home for dinner. Fish tacos Alaskan style. The next day we went to Christensen Lake. Here's a point that we decided to fish off of. Again, the contour lines through this area here are relatively close and get out to deep water quickly. I would have liked to have fished over here, but I'll explain why we didn't fish off at this point here in just a couple of minutes. Oh, why wait? That other point was in line with an active runway. In the winter, frozen lakes make wonderful airports. But I have to admit, watching the planes take off and land was a special treat in itself. Oh, by the way, if you take a look off the left wing in just about a second, you'll see my point. Even with all the air traffic on the lake, we're still able to find 3 good locations to drill holes to fish. Each hole was 20 to 30 feet from the other, going further out into the lake. This way we could test different depths to find out where the fish were holding. I won the smallest fish of the day with this Dolly Varden, which I quickly released to fight another day. Here my son Mark has the largest fish of the day, another Dolly Varden. You can always tell the tough native Alaskans, they're the ones that are not wearing any gloves. So after a brief photo shoot, it was back into the lake for this Dolly Varden. But I believe that water was too cold because he tried to jump back out onto the ice, kind of like I am when I jump into a spring in Florida. But with a little persuasion, down he went to his friends. After a successful morning of fishing, we decided to go into Talkeetna to the Roadhouse for a piece of their famous pie. This is one treat you don't want to miss. Also in Talkeetna is the National Park's Welcome Center that all climbers of Denali have to check in at. And just down the street you can catch a plane to take you to base camp to climb Denali, or if you want, just circle the summit for a scenic view. If you need any supplies, visit Negley's store. Inside you'll also find a living museum to the area. After sightseeing, be sure to take an afternoon nap to be able to take advantage of the northern lights. The northern lights usually peak between 12 and 2 a.m. in the morning. A great place to view them is out on the frozen Talkeetna River. This is an experience you will never forget. If you're able to time your trip to be in Anchorage on the first Saturday in March, you'll be able to catch the start of the Iditarod sled dog race. This is a great opportunity for people in dog watching, and how often do you get to see a mushing mortician? The Iditarod covers 1,049 miles, and in conjunction with the race right in Anchorage is a fur auction, a snow sculpture competition, and a carnival. Once you get outside the city, there's lots of other things to do, like cross-country skiing on frozen lakes, hiking along Turnagain Arm and watching the ice flows, walking along Resurrection Bay and taking in the dead forest that was caused by the 1964 earthquake that dropped the land in this area by up to 6 feet, and then looking towards the bay itself and watching the reflection of the mountains. One suggestion before you go hiking, buy a pair of spikes. It's a $30 investment that will protect you on the snow and the ice from bad falls. And while you're out hiking, keep your eyes open. Not all animals sleep during the winter, like this mother moose and her calf. And perched in a tree, you might even see a bald eagle. Thank you for joining us on this adventure, and please like it if you enjoyed it. If you're not a subscriber, please join now so you won't miss the next adventure.